It's kind of crazy what's happening in the Kelowna real estate market right now. Condo prices continue to crash, and condo sales are still dropping, while single family home prices are increasing. It's like there are two completely different markets depending on what type of property you're looking at. The craziest stat, though, the benchmark price of a townhome dropped 10% in a single month. And if you're trying to make sense of it all, the news headlines really aren't helping you or giving you any type of clarity at all. So let's dive into what's really going on in the Kelowna real estate market right now so that you know what's really going on. Let's start with the number of residential sales. Now that we've gone through all of 2025 up till December, we can see how it compared to the last 2 years before that. Sales in December were down 4% year over year from December 2024, but still higher than they were in 2023. As you can see from the graph, every year we have a slowdown in the number of sales over the final quarter of the year. May is typically the busiest time of year, January, December are typically the slowest. 2025 had started the year having more sales than 2024, but over the last quarter, it's actually been slightly lower than it was this time last year. In December, we had 119 single-family detached home sales, which is up 6.3% from the previous year. Townhomes had 44 more sales, which is up 10% year over year. The condo market, though, only had 48 sales in all of December, which is a 30% decrease from this time last year. And if we look at the historic home sales over the last 9 to 10 years, you can see that the last 3 years have been the worst years for the number of sales over the last decade. 2025 did have more sales than the previous 2 years, but you can see that it's still considerably lower than it was most years over the last decade, and certainly way lower than it was in 2021. 2021, as I've said many times before, was a crazy market, and I don't think we're ever going to see sales be that high, or at least not anytime in the near future. By the way, this video is part of an exclusive collaboration with top real estate YouTubers from across North America. We're each breaking down what's really happening in our local markets. You know, the stuff you won't hear on the evening news or read in some generic market report. If you want the inside scoop on what's going on in markets beyond your own backyard, make sure you check out all the videos linked down below. These aren't just random YouTubers. These are people who are experts in their markets and know it inside and out. Moving on to the residential inventory, or the number of listings on the market, this graph shows us what's happened over the last 2 years. Just like the number of sales, typically in the last quarter of a year, you'll see inventory decrease as people take their listings off the market over the winter or over the holiday season. Year over year, inventory in December was only up 2.2% from where it was this time last year. Taking a look at the number of active listings by year in December, you can see that 2022, 23, 24, 25 are considerably higher than the 10-year rolling average. We have a lot more inventory now, and actually it's the most inventory we've had in a decade. This presents a lot of opportunities for buyers out there who are looking to get into the market or move up or move down. We do have to think that some of this inventory is not saleable inventory in the fact that the price is just simply too high for the market. But because inventory is so much higher than the 10-year average, there are a lot of opportunities out there for buyers. Starting with the composite benchmark price, this gives us the benchmark price of what's happening across the market. This blends all of the types of properties that are available. And I do like to use benchmark price, as I've mentioned in the past, because it gives us a better idea of what the typical home would sell, and it doesn't suffer from big swings like the average price would if there's a few higher or lower priced properties sold in a given month. This gives us a better trend of what's going on in the market. As you can see on the right there, over the last 6 months, the market has basically been softening in Kelowna. We're down lower than we were in December of this time last year, and that composite benchmark price is down 15% from where it was on the market peak of 2022. Taking a closer look at the last 12 months of the composite benchmark price, it was gaining some momentum in the spring of 2025, kind of topped out around June, but since then prices have been coming down steadily. They did go up a little bit in November. I thought that was maybe an anomaly, and this kind of shows us that prices continue to fall. This is being driven by the price of townhomes and condos coming down and not so much the price of single family homes, but we'll get to those specific products later in the video. Moving on to that single family detached home price, in December that price went up 2.4% and came in at $1,045,000. That's up from $1,021,000 the month before. If we go out over a year though, that's relatively unchanged from where it was in December of 2024, down 0.7%, which is about $8,000. Taking a look at the benchmark price graph, prices in this segment of the market for the middle of 2025 had been coming down, but looks like December bucked that trend. We'll have to check in January if those prices continue to go up, or like I was mentioning in the composite price, that could just be a 1-month anomaly. This price is up, about $38,000 from where it was last October. It's higher than it was when the market corrected in 2022, but it is down 14% from the market peak of 2022. Going out over the last decade, the benchmark price of a single family home in the central Okanagan has doubled since 2015. The price is higher than it was in 2020. If we look at the graph and we take out that craziness of late 2021, 2022, just ignore that part and drew a straight line from December 2020, the market has kind of grown as expected. It's been relatively flat over the last 18 months, 2 years. It hasn't seen a lot of appreciation or a lot of depreciation. And if we drew a straight line from December 2020, prices are probably around where you would expect them to be with regular market growth. If we move on to the benchmark price of a townhome, this price dropped 10% month over month. It came in at $675,000 in December, which is down quite a bit from the $750,000 that we saw in November. And if we go out over the last year, this price is basically down 10% from where it was this time last year. If we look at the market graph of the benchmark price of townhomes, it's down 19% from the market peak. If you remember last month, prices jumped from October to November, and I was wondering if that was the start of a new trend or if it was just an anomaly. Now that we have the December numbers, we can see that November was a bit of an anomaly. If we continue the trend from September, October to December, this market has been kind of declining. It's also down from the bottom of December 2022, which was the bottom of the last market correction. There's a definite trend here that prices are coming down in the townhome market, and I'm really curious to see what happens through January, February of 2026 before we get into the spring kind of frenzy that we typically see, or the busier spring market. It does look like these prices are going to continue to come down, but we'll have to see what happens next month. If we go out over the last decade though, prices are up a couple $100,000 from where they were in 2015, and they are higher than they were 5 years ago. Moving on to the condo market. This market continues to slide. Prices are down 3.3% from November to December and came in at a benchmark price of $470,000 last month. Looking out over the last year, not a lot of movement. Prices were at $471 last December. They're at $470, $471 this December. But if we go out and have a look at what the benchmark price graph has done over the last 3 years, the price is down 14.5% from the market peak in 2022, and we've actually come down below where we were at the end of that market correction in October of 2022 at 483. To start this year, prices did go up between, December, January, and February, kind of topped out in March. Then they got to June, but any gains that they had over the last 12 months have been erased over the last 6 months. Since June, this market has been coming down. There was a small bump in the price from October to November, but it was really insignificant. And overall, the trend of condo prices is they've been crashing for the last 6 months of 2025. Going out over the last decade, prices, of course, are up from where they were 10 years ago, and they are up from where they were 5 years ago, But on the far right of that graph, you can see that prices have really started to tumble since June of this year. One of the reasons that the prices of condos continues to keep dropping is look at the available inventory. This is how much was available in December of each of the last 9 or 10 years. That yellow line gives you the 10-year rolling average, and we just have so much inventory of condos on the market right now that prices have to go down. And you have to keep in mind too that this is only inventory that's listed on the MLS. It doesn't include any inventory that developers are sitting on or new build construction that's not on your MLS system. Moving on to the price ratio, this is the price that a home ultimately sells for versus its last listing price. So if it's had reductions or something like that, it's not reflected here. But in general, single family homes buyers can expect to negotiate 3 to 3.5% off the last listing price on average. Townhomes is around that 97, 98%, which gives you a 2 to 3% discount. And in the condo market, buyers are negotiating about a 3% discount on average from the last listing price. Taking a look at the months of inventory, this tells us if nothing else hit the market, how many months it would take at the current sales pace to sell everything that's available. In the single family detached home market, we are in a buyer's market at 8 months of available inventory, but that did tighten up a little bit from that 8.7 months that we saw the previous month. This isn't putting significant pressure on prices to come down in this segment of the market, but it is preventing them from going up. Taking a look at the townhome market, we're now at 7.4 months of available inventory, but the previous month we were at 10.8, or basically 11 months of inventory. I think that that had a significant impact on why prices came down so much in the last month. There's a bit of a lag between how many months are available and what it affects on prices, and this brought those prices down because the ones that ended up selling had to sell for a little bit less just because buyers had so many choice. But the craziest stat when it comes to months of inventory is the condo market. We were already significantly in a buyer's market at 9.9, 10 months of available inventory, but last month we jumped to over 14 months of available inventory. This basically means that 1 out of every 14 listings on the market is selling every month. So if you're a condo seller and you're not priced for the current market, or you're not willing to negotiate with a buyer, your chances are basically zero that you're going to sell over any 30-day period. To sell a condo right now, you have to be on point, you have to negotiate, you have to be willing to work with buyers, or they're just going to move on to something that could be just down the hall from yours. So just to recap, we are in a firm buyer's market across the market. Some segments are stronger buyer markets, and other markets are inching closer to that balanced market. I would consider anything in the Okanagan with 4 to 6 months of available inventory to be a balanced market. So we saw a pretty crazy drop in the price of townhomes this month, and the local condo market looks like it continues to crash. If you're an investor who is still holding on to a condo you bought sometime over the last 5 years, hoping prices improve before you sell, it looks like you'll have to keep waiting a little bit longer. But if you're a first-time buyer looking to get on the property ladder, it looks like there are lots of opportunities for you out there, and affordability is improving as prices come down. I'm also thinking that there are probably some opportunities for investors now who have been waiting on the sidelines. Depending on how much cash down you have, you may be able to find a rental investment property where you could cash flow or at least break even every month and then, build equity from there. The single family home market, on the other hand, remains steady in Kelowna as it continues to be a desirable place for people to live, raise a family, or even retire. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I put out new market updates and real estate insights weekly that will help keep you informed for when it's time to make your next move. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.